We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And we're back with our special Liberty Nation Radio exclusive panel of Tim Donner, Scott Cosenza, and Jeff Charles. Earlier on, we talked about the full frontal effort to shield President Biden from damaging allegations. But what of the notion that justice is blind? We hear from Republicans that the DOJ is taking it easy on Joe Biden when they went hell for leather against President Donald Trump. Now, how true are these allegations? And if they are, what does it signify? Now, Scott, as our legal resident mind, or resident legal mind, whichever you prefer, or mind resident legal, entirely up to you, I'd like you to take this one for us. Are we witnessing an unequal application of, if not the law, then at least the processes associated with the law?
Mark, I can't get past your description of full frontal and knowing President Biden's penchant for exposing himself to female members of the Secret Service detail.
Well documented.
In a rut there. I'm trying to all my might to get the wheels out of the ditch here. Would you repeat the question one more time?
Too much information, Scott. TMI.
So, Scott, are we witnessing an equal application of the law or the processes of the law?
So, the funny thing is that once the equal application of the law is demanded, typically that will be the end of the application of the law at all, which is what I expect we will have here. In other words, when Trump is the alleged violator of the law, he gets to have the full measure of justice, good and hard. And then when somebody on the progressive side, it can be subject to the same justice, well, then all of a sudden, it's just about getting the documents back in safe hands, and we never really were serious about, mishandling crimes whatsoever, is what I suggest we'll have. And it is an unequal application, I think, because if it was just Trump, then I think they'd go, as hard as they could. But now that they've got the gander to contend with, it's not going to be the same deal.
So that I take it that's a no. I mean, my legal terminology is not that clear, but I take that one for a no there, Scott. Now, Jeff.
Yeah, that's how you know Scott's a lawyer.
Yeah.
On the one hand, but on the other hand.
Yeah, those $100 words, and I'm not sure how much you billed me for the time. Scott, thank you for your answer. It was a very good answer. But Jeff, how badly do you think this is damaging to institutional representation? I mean, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, to many Americans, it's a duck, right? And there may or may not be a two-tiered system, but it really looks like there is. And I think that's an important point. How does America deal with the what appears to be a two-tiered justice system?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I don't think this is going to change anytime soon. I mean, even if you go outside of this example, when you look at the conduct of the FBI and how it treated Trump and how it was always after Trump, even since 2016, the Department of Justice has been corrupted, and it's been corrupt for a long time. And it doesn't seem that any president from either party really wants to do something about this. I mean, the FBI has huge issues with corruption, and it's attacked both sides since its inception. The Department of Justice, same thing. There is a two-tier justice system in this country. I mean, even if you get more macro with it, I mean, there's, Hunter Biden can go on TV, talk about smoking crack, and knowing that nothing's going to happen to him. But if any of us did that, not that we smoke crack here at Liberty Nation, but if any of us did that, we would be in huge trouble. So it's an ongoing problem. Everybody complains about it, but we never get people in office who want to do something about it.
Okay, Tim, it seems to me that the founding principles of America are based on the ideas of liberty and justice, or the two. Let's go back a couple of thousand years to the Roman goddesses, Libera and Justitia, I believe. What's your take on this? Have we moved so far from those old Roman ideals that so well encapsulated the idea of the American dream?
Well, I think what these last years with Trump and after Trump, although there hasn't been an after because they're still after him, right? So it's still something of a Trump era in that sense. The thing we saw really introduced over these years is the criminalization of political differences. And so, for example, Exhibit A, the Russia collusion hoax, that was done because it was criminal in their view, for Trump to be aligned in any way or supported in any way or propped up in any way by Vladimir Putin. But what if that person was a left-winger who was running Russia? Would there have been a problem if they'd been supporting Hillary Clinton? Would we ever have even known about it? So there is a two-tier justice system. I think it's just a matter of what the two tiers are, because remember, the Department of Justice oversees the entire federal criminal code. So they have to be selective in what they decide to pursue and prosecute. They can't prosecute all crimes, even all big crimes. So they have to be selective. And it's how they select, what they select, that reveals what their true sort of ideological underpinning is, or you might put it, the swamp establishment defensive mechanism that doesn't allow anybody from outside their circle to come in and shake things up, as Trump did.
You know, that's a great point about, you know, the election of what crimes there are to prosecute. You think that, you know, that if the U.S. attorney in Cleveland goes to his bosses in Washington and says, I think I can make a giant union corruption case, you know, a couple months out before the election, you think he's going to get an enthusiastic,
Right.
like, yeah, let's go ahead with that? Absolutely
Exactly.
not.
Well, and another example is even the abortion issue. You guys might remember late last year, FBI agents showed up at the homes of 11 different people for engaging in a pro-life protest in front of an abortion provider in May of 2021, hauled them off and threw them in cages. And as of today, we still don't have anybody arrested for all the fire bombings and vandalisms that have been carried out against pro-life organizations after the Supreme Court decision on Dobbs. So that's yet another prime example of how the DOJ, FBI politically selects, you know, the cases they want to take. It's really hard to argue that this institution has not been corrupted and politicized at this point.
But for most people, it's an optics issue. Surely,
Well, I think that,
one
you know,
side
one of
can't
the
be blind.
Well, one of the big problems is that the Attorney General, who oversees the entire Justice Department, including the FBI, is supposed to be, quote, independent from the president who appoints him or her. But of course, that's not the way it works in real life. The fact is, the Attorney General is, in essence, a political appointee. So underlying permanent bureaucracy, so to speak, is always in a protective mode and has always been left of center in its predilection to protect the existing order. And they can't have anybody threatening that, Mark.
Perhaps it's time for an elected Attorney General. Right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Coming up after this short break, we tackle the activist media's devotion to the Commander-in-Chief and whether Biden himself remains a viable 2024 option. Don't go anywhere. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides. Entertaining, informative, and just plain fun. Watch Liberty Nation's The Conservative 5. Produced by conservatives for conservatives. C5's The Left Free Zone. Hosted by Liberty Nation's Lisa K. Donner. Joined by a raucous, irreverent panel of authors. Deconstructing leftist narratives. Debating the hot topics. And remembering to laugh. Join the official conservative safe
You only
space.
did that to piss Jeff off.
Liberty Nation's The Conservative 5.